Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. First of all, if you hear any noises in the background, it could be the fact that they are fixing flat rooftops on the other side of the street. They are the flat rooftops with a tar finish, and occasionally every few months somebody needs to go up there and fix small issues, and that's what they're doing today. In any case, we're looking at the case of Tony Lombardi today, who was age 22 when he died on August 30th, 1990. He was discovered by his mother, who had come home around midnight that day herself, and about 45 minutes later she said she heard a door closing and footsteps, and she thought, oh, Tony's home, I better go say goodnight. And so she got up and she knocked on his door. He didn't answer, even though the light was on in his room, which had previously been off because she had been doing laundry and things like that, walking up and down the stairs, and the door to his bedroom was straight across from the stairs, and she hadn't noticed any light there previously. When she went over, the lights were on. When she went into the room, she found him laying on his bed naked, propped up by two pillows under his shoulder and with a shot wound to the head. The police, I believe to this day, rule it self-harm. Because the other S word is not appreciated by YouTube, you know what I mean. But the mother has other ideas about that. The gun was found on the ground next to the bed, and since he had metal residue on his hand, the police thought that he had held the gun himself. And his mother says, well, it could also be because he works in a canning factory. In other words, he has metal cans in his hands pretty much every day. No doubt that's going to leave a mark. And those two parties do not agree on what the actual ruling is. A little information about Tony himself, though. He's a very sociable, outgoing guy, and so sociable that he actually had 3 different women that he was seeing, one of whom actually already had a relationship, so that's always a little bit tricky. There were a few threats directed at him. One by a man who had followed him home one day and started yelling at him about having cut him off in traffic and how he was going to deal with him someday. And at least that's what I heard. And then the other one was a message left under answering machine by a man who said that he was messing with his girlfriend and he was going to fix him as well for that. Now, that one was also heard by his father, who questioned him about it, and he's like, oh, what's going on with this? Should you maybe do something about it? Sounds serious. And Tony said, don't worry about it. I have a friend who knows this guy, and they're going to mediate. But that friend who tried to mediate went and talked to the guy, and the guy was like, you know what, I don't have an issue with you, I have an issue with him, and don't worry, we'll take care of it. And that was basically the end of that. From what that friend later said during an interview for, I think, Unsolved Mysteries, was that the police actually never questioned him about that whole conversation or about that man, so that's also very unusual. Another thing that was unusual is the fact that he was propped up by 2 pillows that were under his shoulder and his head was resting on top of them, but the bullet hole in the headboard was much lower than that, and I don't believe that the pillows were hit, or at least they didn't say anything about that. He did actually have defensive wounds and bruises and a jab or a cut above his eye, so he did fight somebody or find something, managed to hurt himself in any case. If you want to rule it self-harm, that he must have struggled with himself very heavily and bruised himself in multiple locations before actually using the gun. So that's why the mother thinks in particular that it is a murder case, and we're going to take a look at this case with the tarot today. Starting off with the vice versa deck, which is already on the table, which is this one. It's the one with the double-sided cards. You can see 2 sides of the coin. Any further questions, we're going to turn to the Urban Tarot deck, which is this one with the more modern imagery. This is the Hangman, who is currently upside down. There we go, like this. So there's that. As per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the cards, and as soon as we have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's see. Top left, we have the Nine of Wands in reverse, and we have Death upright but backwards, and then we have the Ten of Swords reverse and backwards. So that's already an instant combination. There's a lot of struggle here, a lot of two cards that point towards lovers here. We got the Two of Cups and the actual lovers in the top right. Somebody losing their position. But anyway, let's start here in the top left. It's starting to look like jealous boyfriend territory, particularly with the Death card. But we'll start over here with the Nine of Wands, which is somebody who is really tired of fighting. They've been fighting for some time. I think they're just done with it. They've even managed to take off their helmets and maybe to get a better insight. This may have been them trying to work very hard on settling things. I don't think this is Tony. This does not feel like Tony. This looks like the person who may have attacked them. Now, what I was saying about death over here, death is usually an end of a chapter with something, starting over again, letting something go. And if you look at it, you've got these two people sitting on either side. And I think on the other side we'll see Death himself. That's right. They're supposed to be pleading with them, but I think if you turn it around and look at it this way, it's almost like they're trying to figure out how to end this situation. And then you see this girl in the middle, and they're both appearing to be offering flowers. Now, of course, on the other side, you would see Death standing there, but from this view, it almost looks as though they're both trying to get the attention of this girl that seems to be minding her own business in the background by herself. So that's quite interesting. We have the Ten of Swords in reverse and backwards. The person has actually escaped from that shell that has been pierced on the ground. I think that they're looking at it similar to the Nine of Wands here. You need to, I think, view these two next to each other. So I think this is the same person, this wounded warrior, that's just kind of tired of perhaps also the lies, because the sword suit is about speech, words that you use, and it's in reverse, so those may be lies and things like that. It may be that he was just tired of all the conversation that they had. He was tired of fighting, and possibly also tired of fighting over this girl right here. Or perhaps just being tired of being the other man, or one of the two. He maybe have wanted exclusivity in that sense. So it's starting to look like it may have been related to the man that was with one of the three women that he was seeing, or at least a man that he was bothering, I guess, by seeing these three women. We have the Five of Wands next, which is definitely more struggle. We have the Five of Pentacles in reverse, which is, I think, feeling that you've already lost, maybe, like resources that you may have lost on a more permanent scale. It could just be that they're really angry at this point, because the next card we have here is the Lovers, which is like making a connection, trying to tie a knot with somebody, joining certain organizations, choosing a path basically, and connecting yourself to it. And then on the end we have the reversed Eight of Wands. Now, Eight of Wands is often also a communication card. Could be that they had a lot of words. It could be, this could be a moment of contact between them. For instance, this could be the voicemail message being left. Like, it's not a very positive message. As you can see, it's also got like a lightning strike there in the background. So this would be a shock. Seemingly coming out of nowhere, although if you look at the lineup they've got here so far, it's not really coming out of nowhere from everybody's perspective. So I think that this is something that they've been struggling with for some time, and then they finally reached out and let Tony know that they were not well pleased with their behavior. Next row, interestingly enough, we see here the Queen of Wands. I almost wanted to say Empress, by the way. She kind of seems to be sitting in a green abundance, but it's not quite that. And also, if you look at her, she's not as heartwarming as the Empress is. She's definitely very fiery, and she knows what she wants. This could still be the male that we're talking about, because just because it's a queen doesn't mean that it is actually a female that is currently popping up. It could also be the female in question, whom is in the middle here. And perhaps saying, well, if you really care about me so much, then why don't you do something? Because the Queen of Wands is very much for actions. She really wants to get things done. Next card we have here is the Page of Cups, but it's facing away. So like staring off into the night, perhaps also with their head in the darkness, unable to choose a direction or just unaware of what's happening. Emotionally unaware of the surprise. They appear to also be kind of looking away from the fish that's jumping out of the cup, so maybe that they didn't see this coming at all. They were blindsided in that sense. I feel like this is Tony being blindsided, and nothing has happened yet at this point. I think at this point right here, it's more like this, I think, is representing the woman in the case, and then we've got them making a plan to do something, and he's not yet aware of it. So he's just living his life and thinking everything's fine. But in the meantime, we have here the Six of Wands in reverse, and that is somebody losing their position. Six of Wands is normally somebody being celebrated, as you can also see by the fact that they're on a very well decorated horse with a wreath decorating their weapon. Everybody's cheering them on in the background, but the other side, of course, is people not being super happy with them and all the destruction that is left behind, I guess, as a result of their actions. So I'm thinking that they are, in the mind of the other person, losing a lot of respect. Could also be that they're hailing them falsely as somebody that they really like. And then the next card we have here is the Two of Cups, which is interesting enough. Because if you look at these leading up to it, this almost seems, particularly with the snakes coming out of the cup, like treason combined with these two. Like I'm seeing a scene where they're both involved. Both this man and this woman are involved. They both are covering for each other. They've made up their mind here. She may have pushed him here on the end saying, hey, if you really care so much about me, well then show it, do it to me, or do it to him rather, do it for me. And then they go over to Tony, and she may have initially pretended that everything was fine. But in the meantime, they have this surprise waiting for him. Yeah, we also see here the Six of Cups, which is usually a melancholy card, maybe for old time's sake. This seems to me like trying to, also it's nighttime as well, and they may have been trying to talk their way into their house. This person is standing on the balcony looking a little bit suspicious perhaps of their actions, but still they have the Six of Cups memories from before, so they may have been able to talk their way into the house regardless. Then we have here, this I think is the Queen. I'm gonna have to turn that around to see whether this is the Queen or the King. Oh no, King of Cups. Okay, so definitely somebody who's very manipulative and very good at it as well, because of the King of Cups. That they're able to manipulate their way into this situation, and then we see the Eight of Pentacles on the end, working very diligently, I suppose, as a result of this. So I think with this bottom row, combined with what we already saw, this sounds like her perhaps talking Tony into letting them in, and then perhaps going a little further because he was found nude, so that they have him in a position where he can't really fight back too much. And because she, looking at this, by the way, he's standing there on the balcony looking out at somebody. This could be the moment where she had thought that she had him in a vulnerable position, and she signaled to somebody on the outside like, oh, we need to come in now, like that type of thing. And then we had this very big manipulation happening here with the King of Cups, and then a lot of hard work following that up. So this looks almost like he was being let in, whoever actually fought him, because it probably wasn't the woman who was fighting him, looking at the bruises and the gash over his eye. That was probably somebody of somewhat equal strength at least. And then the Eight of Pentacles on the end would be them trying to get things sorted in a way that they would not be suspected, I think, of the crime. So sounds like a plot against him by multiple people. Let's see now, because we did have that person from the voicemail. Kind of looks as though it might be pointing towards them and whoever that girl is. Let's see if we can get any more information about what they're doing, if they're going to get caught. If they're going to find out any more about them. Oh, these cards are falling. Let's quite a few of them though. I think I'll just take a couple. That one and that one. Okay. Right, so we have 8 of Cups walking away and 6 of Wands victory. Okay, so this almost looks like, even though at the end of this, I would think the male in this situation did win her over, but ultimately they end up breaking up anyway because 8 of Cups is walking away energy. I think that the things that they went to together, the lengths that they went to in order to solve this problem that they had in the ways of Tony Lombardi, may have driven them apart at some points. Even though initially they did appear to be winning, like they won over their rival type of thing, but they lost the war because the relationship ended, that type of thing is what I'm aiming at. Let's see what else we can get. Okay, that one. Oh, and this one. Alright, so we have the Fool here, and the first one that came out was, oh no, it's not the Fool, this is, it looks like the Fool because they seem to be stepping out into the universe. It's called the universe, like the trust that they have. It's interesting that it's a different one. So this would then be the World, and the Fool is in reverse. So the World is watching, and they are being very careful at this. At taking their next step. They're definitely not going to step off of the ledge like the person from the World card is doing. It's interesting to see how similar these are actually. It almost seems like she is walking away freely and he is being very careful because we have almost the same type of vibe here. Like I said, it looks very much like it because she's stepping off of the ledge here. There's 2 people on the ledge and each of them has a pet. This one has a cat, this one has a dog. She's just walking off into the sunset or whatever it is, or the sunrise, and he's standing there cautiously looking down below to see what the next step should be. So I think that they kind of split ways after this to perhaps also avoid suspicion or something along those lines, like they were victorious and they were like, okay, we need to split up, that type of thing. And she's just out there pretending to live her life and being all happy. And he might also appear to be happy, but he is much more careful in this situation, just making sure not to make any false moves. What next though? Because this looks as though it's very shortly after it happened. Oop, that's a large stack. We're not going to need all of them. Come on. There you go. Let's see what we need. This one. And those 2. Okay. These 2 fill over here. Oop, we're pushing all the cards around at the moment. Okay, 4 of Cups. So that is being unable to decide. It's almost like a now what type of card. Don't really like any of the choices that I have. I think this is the man of the 2. They've had their cake and they ate it too, as shown by the milk and cookies that are just kind of sitting there on the table, which is something that people often like joke about, like, oh, I want my milk and cookies, so like I need the things that I want and I want them now. And they've had all of that and they're just kind of bored and in luxury, as the card is also called. So I think that after this whole thing was over, at least the male in this situation felt like they had achieved what they wanted to do, and now they kind of didn't know what to do with themselves. Let's see what these other cards are. Shoving everything around here. There we go. We've got the Filmmaker, which is Knight of Cups, and then we have the 3 of Wands, and they're both cable, and they're both in reverse. Let's see. So this Prince of Cups or Knight of Cups is in reverse, and they tend to focus a lot on their own emotions. I think that even though they appear to have made no huge decisions afterwards, kind of like spoiled for choice, or at least didn't really know what to do with themselves afterwards, the Filmmaker is showing that the emotions are still very much aimed at themselves. So I don't think they have a lot of sympathy for the victim in this case, mostly just sympathy for themselves and feeling bad about their own life and their own path. Three of Wands is next, which is normally like wanting to go places, having a lot of energy to do things, but in this case it's in reverse, and it's almost like they're trying to put out the fires within themselves, and I think that they're just kind of like chasing after the facts, not really getting anywhere, not moving fast enough for things that are moving around them. They're kind of slacking in life, I feel like they kind of are lagging behind in their actions. They may not have a great career going, that type of thing. They may just be kind of, wouldn't say that they're a slacker, but they've kind of come to a standstill. They're not moving very much. Let's see what else we can find. Are we going to actually see them get caught? Because we haven't heard too much about her so far. That one wanted to fall. What do we got? Ten of Swords again, called Ruin this time. So I think that they are definitely very much anxious about what they did. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get caught, but at the very least it shows that they're definitely not forgetting what they've done. It still haunts them. We've got one specifically that fell out, and then a small stack, but I'll get to that in a bit. This one is the Page of Cups again, and in this case it's in reverse, so there is a negative surprise. It could be that they're focusing or trying to focus on their own life, and then suddenly something pops up. Like, I think every once in a while they'll hear their name come up somewhere, somebody will mention him, somebody on TV will say something, or they're browsing the internet and suddenly they find an article that's recent about this case, and then they probably are surprised. Now we have the Knight of Wands as well, which is actually the King of Wands. So this is a person really taking action, and that has led to new initiatives with the Ace of Pentacles. So I think that after a particularly shocking mention of Tony, that they may have decided, oh no, I need to do something now. I need to take action. So all this stuff that was happening beforehand, all this me getting stuck, isn't helping, and I need to try something new. That's why we have here the Ace of Pentacles. Oops. And then we have the Nine of Wands in reverse, and that's basically where we started. So even though they tried something new, because we had a Nine of Wands, I think was one of the first cards that we had right there, we're back at the beginning. So even though they felt that they had been victorious over here, they decided, or they didn't decide, they just ended up back in that same mindset ultimately anyway. So even if you win, you lose, that type of thing. So ultimately, I don't think that they gained anything, and they lost everything. At least it looks as though their relationship ended, their life came a bit to crashing halt. Even though they tried to restart it, there was always that worry, and every once in a while just being very paranoid about things. And even though they tried very hard at some point to make something out of themselves, they are still that same wounded warrior. Okay, so we have the next card popped out is the Tower. Oh, I was about to show you the side that it landed on, but then it flipped and went like this. So either side apparently applies. So there's definitely a shocking moment happening to them, or happened to them. And again, with this tower, which was already broken on the inside, this seems to me like somebody may make an observation that maybe they were the ones involved, and that's going to come as a shock. But on the other hand, this almost feels like they knew it was coming, and so there wasn't really that much left to shock them with. Kind of like they were waiting for a call, waiting for a knock on the door, that type of thing, and then it finally came, and the moment itself was a shock, but they knew it was coming, and that type of thing. So I think maybe somebody figured it out, or this could be the moment where they actually do catch on to him and do go knocking on his door to ask some questions. Let's see what else we can get. Okay. Two of Pentacles in reverse, and the back side of his, well, hang on, let me just grab this one as well. This is, I think, the King of Pentacles looking the other way. Let's take a look. Yeah, King of Pentacles. All right, so they're facing the other way. So this looks like he's kind of performing in front of the people. As you can see with the Two of Pentacles, normally that would be like trying to balance finances, make decisions like, should I spend money on this, should I spend money on that, what's the wisest thing to do? But it's almost like he's trying to play to the crowd over there to pick the right course of action that will lead to the best outcome. So he got caught here, and then he's like, oh no, I can explain everything, it's gonna be fine, at least I have a perfectly good explanation, here's my alibi and that type of thing. But here is the King of Pentacles looking the other way, and it's kind of like he's ignoring the bounty that he already has. So this is somebody who is perhaps thinking very negatively, because at the other side of here you see him sitting on a throne, but there isn't that much. It's nighttime. There is some bounty in front of him, but it's a very gloomy card. But the other side, you can see that there's actually a lot of sunlight, and there's even a town in the background. There's lots of fruits around him, lots of resources just ready for him to pluck, but he's not looking at it. So kind of ignoring all the things that he already has and trying to play to the crowd to try and get other things arranged. And kind of making a fool of himself with this card as well. As you can see, that outfit, like specifically dressed to impress, but mostly entertain. And again, Knight of Cups. So still focusing very much on his own emotions. So I don't think he feels much guilt. I think he feels mostly remorse for himself, which is interesting. Also, I'm noticing that there is a crab sitting underneath him on the ground there, which reminds me of the moon, and the entire card kind of reminds me of the moon with the vibe as well, like secrets that are keeping him in the dark. And he's focusing very much on his own emotions and nobody else's. Okay, so the last card that I have here that fell off the top is the Fool. So I think that he may be trying to live lightheartedly. We see a crown on the ground and a cup as well. What else is there? I think that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay, so maybe he's thinking he could try to be more lighthearted, though it might not lead to very great success, because beforehand he's ignoring everything that he's got. He's only focusing on his own feelings and emotions. He's trying to play to the crowd here. He's already had this shock with Tower. Could be that this just was a life-changing moment where he decided that he needed to really do something else, because it didn't work out over here with his Ace of Pentacles, and it's kind of led him to just doing whatever, and maybe just trying to run off into the sunsets, chasing a dream perhaps. So it looks a lot like a jealous boyfriend taking action, perhaps also with the aid of said girlfriend to get him into the house. Afterwards, the two appear to have shared a brief moment of victory, I suppose, and then split up, went their own way. The next cards that we had were basically all him trying to make things work and falling into a bit of a hole of depression, which he tried to get out of at one point, slumped back into it, then had a quite large surprise and has since tried to turn over a new leaf, but also ignored everything that he already built behind him. I'm thinking that if we're looking for if they're going to be caught at some point, then I think the only way that they would be getting caught is because they are careless and they're only focused on their own needs, and they're not paying attention to what they do or how it comes across to other people, because they're very much focused on themselves. They're very internally focused, and I don't think they're really watching everything that they say and everything that they do. They're not taking the wisest decisions with the Fool there on the end. So I think if anybody's paying attention to this person and they may have some suspicions, that they might start to connect two and two together. I don't think that they would even struggle that much ultimately, because as we said with the Tower here, they already knew what it was going to be about, and were expecting that strike to happen. So that is what I'm seeing for Tony Lombardi. I hope you found that interesting. In any case, make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. If you have a case that you would like to have me do a reading on, make sure to put that in the Google Doc that I've linked in the description. I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.